Hello, my name is Jonathan Green, and you may know me from such previous Kickstarters as Alice's Nightmare in Wonderland, Shakespeare vs Cthulhu, and The Wicked Wizard of Oz. You may also know me as the creator of the steampunk world of Pax Britannia, and the author of 7 Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks. Back in 2012, the year that Fighting Fantasy turned 30 years old, I ran my first Kickstarter to crowdfund You Are the Hero, a history of Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks. Thanks to the support of FF fans from around the world, the funding goal was not only reached but exceeded, and 2 years later, in September 2014, the book was published as a full-colour A4 hardback, 100,000 words long and featuring over 400 pieces of art. I also conducted over 100 interviews for the book with people such as the series co-creators Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, as well as other authors, artists, editors and fans, including the Fast Show's Charlie Higson and comedian Richard Herring. You Are the Hero was launched at Fighting Fantasy Fest, the first dedicated FF convention of its kind, which reunited Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone with commissioning editor Geraldine Cook, who first saw the promise of the gamebook format, and Philippa Dickinson, who ended up editing the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, for the first time in many years. September 2017 will see the second Fighting Fantasy Fest take place, to celebrate 35 years of the world's premier gamebook series, and I would like to help mark the occasion by producing an update to my original history. When I first announced on social media that I would be writing a companion volume to accompany You Are the Hero, alongside the general murmurs of delight, there were some who asked the question, but what else is there to tell? You Are the Hero, a history of Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks, covers everything from how Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone met at school, the founding of Games Workshop in 1975, the publication of the first Fighting Fantasy Gamebook in 1982, and how the books grew to become a global brand, right through to the reimagining of the original adventures as iPhone apps and the 30th anniversary celebrations that culminated with the release of Ian Livingstone's Blood of the Zombies. So indeed, what else could there be to tell? I thought I had turned over every stone and explored every dark dungeon chamber to bring the history of the legendary gamebook series into the light. But the truth of the matter is that I was not able to get in touch with every artist or writer before You Are the Hero went to press. And since the publication of the book, some have got in touch with me, or mutual acquaintances have put me in touch with others. As well as conducting interviews of these creators, so that I can share their experiences of working on the Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks with fans of the series, there have also been further developments in the worlds of Fighting Fantasy, Advanced Fighting Fantasy, and Steve Jackson's Sorcery that are worth recording. Things have certainly not stood still since the 30th anniversary. These developments include the publication of the first FF comic, Ian Livingstone's Freeway Fighter, and the first FF graphic novel, Steve Jackson's The Trolltooth Wars. And then there are topics such as Fighting Fantasy's broadcasting history, which were not covered in the original You Are the Hero. And so, 5 years on from the publication of the 65th Fighting Fantasy Gamebook, and with another new book due from Ian Livingstone later this year, I'm asking for your help in funding You Are the Hero Part 2, that I may continue to chronicle the history of Fighting Fantasy. I have another 12 chapters of new content planned, and would like to be able to fill the book with as much original artwork from the series as possible. Indeed, legendary fantasy artist Chris Achilleos, who painted the covers of Out of the Pit, Titan the Fighting Fantasy World, Space Assassin, Temple of Terror, Armies of Death, and the novel The Trolltooth Wars, has agreed to produce the cover art for You Are the Hero Part 2. And if we can raise enough money, one lucky backer could even end up as the owner of Chris's original painting. As I said before, the original You Are the Hero only looked as good as it did thanks to the funds raised by those people who backed the project on Kickstarter. And the same applies to You Are the Hero Part 2. I can't do it without your help. So check out the rewards on offer, which include signed copies of the book, as well as signed Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks, and lunch with Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. And not only pledge your support today, but please spread the word among your friends and social networks. Remember, the more people who back this book, the more impressive the final outcome will be. Don't worry if you missed the original Kickstarter. Especially for this one, the publisher Snowbooks will produce a brand new limited edition hardback print run of You Are the Hero, and so you can pledge to receive both You Are the Hero and You Are the Hero Part 2 at the same time. I would just like to sign off by thanking you in advance for your support, and for helping to spread the word about this project. May your stamina never fail.